Ladies and gentlemen, Deputy Minister of Correctional Services, members of the Portfolio Committee, other honourable members, the National Commissioner of the Department of Correctional Services, the Inspecting Judge, Justice Edwin Cameron, members of the National Council for Correctional Services, members of the Portfolio or the Parole Boards, and ladies and gentlemen. I rise today and this esteemed House must take note that I am humbled by the mandate bestowed upon me and conscious of the immense responsibility that comes with leading the Department of Correctional Services. As we approach the 1 year mark since my inauguration as Minister, it is not only fitting to reflect merely on the strides we have taken in stabilizing operations, tightening accountability, and intensifying our service delivery efforts within a complex and heavy burdened environment, but it is also essential to be honest with regards to the problems that is still prevalent in the department. I am standing here today in front of you and the people of South Africa, and I do not intend to sugarcoating our challenges or our problems we experience in correctional services. My philosophy is always that you can only properly deal with a problem if you put the real facts on the table and not in a state of denial. So we know these challenges encompass issues such as overcrowding, dilapidated infrastructure, a rising number of remand detainees, deteriorating facilities, staff shortages, the presence of crime syndicates and gangs within our institutions, and emerging crime patterns that pose challenges to our rehabilitation programs. And I want to start with the budget. It is very important to remember that the department's allocation was cut due to fiscal and economic constraints our country is facing. Over the last 5 years, more than 11 billion rand. The appropriation to our vote at this moment for the 25-26 financial year is 29,221,952 rands, increasing to 30,567,412 for the 26-27 financial year and reaching 31,950,271 in the 27-28 financial year. We are doing our level best to explore alternative revenue streams so that we are not solely reliant on the fiscus. The cuts our budget translate to the provision of security equipment being compromised, capital investment in skills development were cut, the budget for nutritional services had to be cut, capital works projects will be on hold, and the monitoring of parolees could be negatively impacted. So it is quite clear that the budget constraints have to deal with 29 billion for 25, 30 billion for 26, 27, and 31.9 billion for the last 27, 28 financial year. Those constraints and cuts have a severe effect on these matters, which is actually operational matters, and compromises the Department of Correctional Services when it comes to security. We will and have to do more with less. This will require innovation, discipline, and commitment, especially from the employees of correctional services. The capital budget shortfall of 220 million rand undermines our ability to conduct infrastructure upgrades and critical maintenance. The escalating cost of food is fueled by inflation and the growing number of inmates, including a sharp increase in foreign nationals, adds another layer of financial strain. We are also hamstrung by above CPI increases in municipal tariffs, particularly for electricity, water, and sanitation. Fixed costs linked to our public-private partnerships correctional facilities leave no room for repatriation and the devolution of maintenance responsibilities from the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. Without corresponding budget support, this has increased and created a funding gap of 154 million rand. Our digital transformation agenda is also under threat due to budget constraints in the Government Information Technology Officer environment, where infrastructure modernization is both urgent and underfunded. I again emphasize these are serious matters. When we come to self-sufficiency, on the front of self-sufficiency, we have registered commendable progress in the construction of correctional center-based bakeries and pharmacies. The number of operational bakeries has increased from 9 to 11, with Standerton and Pietermaritzburg recently coming online. In the year ahead, the Durban Westville Bakery will come into operation. The facility is already running at 50% capacity, and I hope to open it in its entirety in the near future. In the year ahead, we must also understand that despite current budgetary pressures, we are committed to identifying suitable sites and establishing additional bakeries and pharmacies where feasible. This includes construction of bakeries at Nigel, Helderstroom, Brandvlei, Groenpunt, Uppington, and Overberg, with target dates set in 2026 and Krugersdorp targeted for March 2027. In the past financial year, we have produced just over 5 million loaves of bread, which translate to estimated savings of 27,197,251 rand and 20 cents. Farm production has also yielded 130,491,122 rand and 81 cents. Estimated savings just in food provision. This is a step in the direction of becoming entirely self-sufficient. There were certain amendments done to the cycle meal plan. The National Commissioner generated a saving of over 200 million rand per annum. Chairperson, these figures reflect our commitment to responsible spending on the taxpayers' hard-earned money. I am proud to extending the invitation to other state departments to consider fulfilling their furniture and related supply needs through the Department of Correctional Services. This request is both legally supported and aligned with the broader goals of government cost efficiency, skills development, and rehabilitation. I am proud to say that all the furniture in both my offices in Cape Town as well as in head office in Pretoria, all the furniture were manufactured by inmates. When we come to the parole system, is also another area, and all communities in South Africa are currently suffering from disproportionately high levels of violent crime. The most vulnerable in our society, women and children, suffer the most due to a lack of effective protection and response to gender-based violence. Our courts are underfunded and understaffed, and our prisons are overcrowded. In the criminal justice system, if there's more effectiveness from the police side, which is happening, it goes to the Justice Department, to our courts, but everything ends with correctional services. So we are in a process also, and we take note that there are too many media reports where parolees re-offended and questions been asked. We must say to each other that DCS has a responsibility to protect our people. And as I said, especially women and children when it comes to rape. When parole becomes a loophole for further terror and criminality, it is not merely a policy failure, it is a failure of justice. Therefore, we will do everything we can. Upon assuming office, I inherited 495 lifer profiles, a backlog. Now, only the minister can approve or not approve parole for lifers. I am very strict when it comes to that, and I want to put it on record again, that it doesn't matter whether an applicant went through all the courses and the rehabilitation programs in our facilities, but when I receive a psychological report or a criminalist report and the risk of reoffending is medium to high, I will not approve any parole for that specific case. And I can say, besides the 495, I inherited 584 lifer profiles have been landed on my desk since. Of this total of 1,079 profiles considered, I approved 29 parole applications and granted 3 cases of day parole. 5 individuals serving life sentences have been granted parole and are subject to deportation. 38 individuals' parole have been revoked, 2 cancelled, and 1 withdrawn. Unfortunately, I also have had to utilize the powers granted to me to refer 3 parole placements to the Correctional Supervision and Parole Review Board under Section 75, subsection 8 of the Correctional Services Act. The CSPRB is tasked with reviewing the original decision made by parole boards and must confirm or replace it with its own decision. In all 3 cases, parole was withdrawn. We are in the process of reviewing the whole parole system, and you've already seen that. When it comes to discipline, I can only say that we can only address our problems if we recognize their true extent. This is the reasoning behind unannounced visits and raids to our facilities. I can declare that in the past year, 466 raids have been conducted. I have also conducted numerous unannounced visits to various facilities. These unannounced visits and raids will increase in the coming year. Since July 3, 2024, many cell phones, sharp objects, and everything have been recovered. In the last year, 515 officials received final written warnings, 181 were suspended without pay, and 146 dismissed. When we come to overcrowding, we must say that our problem is that we have just over 104,000 detained, can I say inmates in our prisons? No, let I say just over 104,000 inmates were sentenced, and therefore sentence offenders we have. But we have 108,000 beds, but then we have just around about 60,000 remand detainees awaiting trial. And that is a severe problem. And we must look, and I welcome the initiative by the inspecting judge in terms of the bail fund. I support it. It is not taxpayers' money, it will be private money, because we have just over 2,500 remand detainees who could not afford a bail of R1,000 and less. And I want to open a debate today. And that debate is, if you look at our criminal justice system, and specifically justice, we must start the debate to say, shouldn't we bring back corporal punishment? Dis weer tyd dat ons gaan kyk na laaitjies. 'n Jong persoon wat 10 brode steel, sit in die tronk en wag 3 jaar miskien voor haar vonnis is. Gaan dink oor of ons
Honourable
die laaitjies
Minister,
terugbring
your time is
om die saak
expired.
te kan aanspreek nie. Baie dankie.
Thank you.